Five interesting facts about money you probably didn't know. Though the less materialist among us would disagree, saying that money runs the world is probably an understatement. The economy of the whole world revolves around the assumption that money, virtual or real, can be exchanged for almost anything in the world we need. Money also has a very interesting history which came about because tens of thousands of years ago we started to exchange things. We discovered we could trade things we don't need to another party for the things we need more. Eventually, we invented money to represent things and exchange it, rather than the things themselves. Since inventing money, we have been perfecting its management by setting up rules and regulations for its fair exchange. Here are some interesting facts about money and its history that you probably didn't know. 1. The earliest form of currency in the world was cows. Dating as far back as 9000 BCE, people traded cattle for the goods and services they needed. Throughout history, several things have been used as forms of currency. These items are usually things that are considered valuable, reusable, or retradable by those who receive them. Livestock, sacks of cereal grain, decorative items such as cowrie shells and beads, and pieces of metals were among the first most commonly used mediums of exchange. Since 9000 BCE, cattle and the manure they produced were considered a form of currency. It wasn't until 1000 BCE that a standardized coinage system was introduced. During the Zhou dynasty, small knives and spades or cowrie replicas made of bronze were used. Between 700 and 500 BCE, India, China, and cities around the Aegean Sea had separately started manufacturing coins. 2. The Chinese were the first to invent paper money in the 7th century. Paper currency began to develop during the Tang dynasty because the merchants and wholesalers preferred paper, so they could avoid having to carry copper coinage during large commercial transactions. By 960 CE, the Song dynasty, being short of copper, started issuing and generally circulating notes in lieu of actual copper with a promise to redeem them later. The central government soon saw the economy of using paper money, and by the early 12th century, 26 million strings of the cash coins worth of banknotes were printed annually. By the 13th century, the idea of paper money was brought from China to Europe by travelers such as Marco Polo and William of Rubruck. The European banks soon warmed up to the concept and started issuing individually written banknotes with the name of the payee and cashier's signature. In 1695, the Bank of England became the first bank to start a permanent issue of banknotes to raise money for the war against France. After the wars waged by Louis XIV left France in a dearth of precious metals, banknotes were established as a formal currency. By the mid-19th century, the Bank of England gradually moved to standardized notes with fixed denominations that would pay any bearer the mentioned amount. 3. Dollar bills are referred to as bucks because, according to one theory, during the 18th century, they replaced deerskins or whole deer as currency. During the 1700s, deerskins were a very common medium of exchange for things of value. The earliest record of the word buck being used to describe money was in the 1748 writings of Conrad Weiser, a Dutch pioneer who served as a middleman between early colonists and Native Americans. He wrote of a theft saying that someone had been robbed of the value of 300 bucks and that a cask of whiskey traded to the Native Americans cost 5 bucks. Though some say that the word buck refers to young, black, male slaves used as beasts of burden and traded for goods, there is no evidence proving that. 4. While $100 is the largest bill today, there were bills of much larger denominations in the past: $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, and even $100,000. In 1928, the federal government of United States made changes to its system of printing banknotes. Apart from issuing denominations ranging between $1 and $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000 and $10,000 bills were also issued featuring the portraits of William McKinley, Grover Cleveland, James Madison, and Salmon P. Chase respectively. The issue of these notes, however, was not just for the rich to save wallet space, but to make transfer payments easier for between banks and other financial institutions during a time when sophisticated systems like wire transfers were not fully developed. The largest denomination to date that the United States has printed is Series 1934 $100,000 gold certificate printed between December 1934 and January 1935.5. Musa I of Mali was the richest man to have ever existed with $400 billion, according to 2010 dollar value. Wealth and was so generous with gold that the metal was devalued for a whole decade. Musa Keita I of Mali was the 10th Mansa, king and conqueror and emperor of the West African Mali Empire during early 14th century. He is said to have conquered over 24 cities, along with their surrounding districts, villages, and estates. During his reign, he made a fortune by exploiting salt and gold production in Mali, which also made him immensely wealthy. Being a devout Muslim, he made a pilgrimage to Mecca between 1324 and 1325, with 60,000 men and 12,000 slaves, who carried 4 pounds of gold bars each. Musa Keita I of Mali was the 10th Mansa, king and conqueror and emperor of the West African Mali Empire during early 14th century. He is said to have conquered over 24 cities, along with their surrounding districts, villages, and estates. During his reign, he made a fortune by exploiting salt and gold production in Mali, which also made him immensely wealthy. Being a devout Muslim, he made a pilgrimage to Mecca between 1324 and 1325, with 60,000 men and 12,000 slaves, who carried 4 pounds of gold bars each. Friends.put likes. Subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell. All the best. See you soon.